Fiction comes in many different forms. Basically, fiction is a form of writing that describes imaginary events and people. It is a main genre or category of writing. But there are many forms of fiction. What types of fiction do you like to read? Well, today we're going to talk about 4 different types of fiction. Realistic fiction, historical fiction, fantasy, and science fiction. Let's take a closer look at each one of these. In realistic fiction, we find characters that are often ordinary, realistic people. The location is usually imaginary, but possible. And the time could be either any time or no time. The characters are often faced with realistic problems or conflicts, which they grapple with and attempt to solve throughout the story. Realistic fiction stories tend to mirror real life. Basically, it could have happened, but didn't. Historical fiction blends real and fictional events. The stories take place in a particular historical period and a particular historical geographical location. The characters are often ordinary real people who did or could have lived in the historical setting. Usually the conflict in historical fiction relates very closely to the time and place in which the story is set. Fantasy is another important subgenre of fiction. In fantasy, characters may have special powers. The characters may also be animals that act like people. This is called anamorphism. Typically, the setting in fantasy is an imaginary world or place. Usually the theme in fantasy is good versus evil, and magic often plays an important role. Science fiction is another important form of fiction. The plot often centers on scientific principles and technology. Science fiction stories often take place in the future and involve non-human characters, such as aliens. Science fiction often takes place in alternative worlds and seeks to answer the question, what if? As you can see, there are many types of fiction. Now, let's recap what we've learned. Remember, realistic fiction centers on realistic characters and their problems, while historical fiction centers on characters based in historical settings. Fantasy often involves magic and is centered on battles of good versus evil, while science fiction involves science and technology and can take place in different worlds. But regardless of all these different genres of fiction, it's important to remember that these are stories crafted in the writer's imagination.